Oops. Good morning, folks. Happy Monday morning. I'm Melissa Schwartz. I am the managing broker of the Realty One Group Paradise Valley office. I'm seeing people jump on here, both in our Zoom and on our Facebook. Dave, do you have that going?
I do. Can you hear me?
I can't.
Okay, I'm gonna mute.
There you go. All right, folks, if you have questions in either Facebook or Zoom, you should be able to put them in the chat. Dave has been kind enough to help us out here and have a second computer up here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And we will go to find my other pages here. All right, so today we are going to talk about our office documents. Now, most of you probably know, hopefully some of these, some of you know all of them I know, but maybe I'll give you a tip or trick here. I've got some experienced agents in the room, so I know they've got some of these down. So I'm showing you, I've already gone into the office documents here. But I'm going to show you where you go. Obviously, if you are in our one login, everyone has access to SkySlope right here. When you click SkySlope, this is going to look a little different for me than for you, because I get to see everybody's offices. If you go down to the bottom here, let me just switch so we just see Paradise Valley there. You will see working documents. Does everybody see that? Working documents on the bottom? That's what you want to click to. And when you click into that, you actually have a choice of office docs here, and then Paradise Valley here on the left. And well, we'll just close the other screen since I already have this open now. So we are going to go through some of these things here so you understand what all of these are. If any of you have ever been asked whether or not you have errors and omissions insurance, and if you're required to provide coverage of that, that is this document right here. It is updated every time the license is renewed from Realty One Group when they renew the license. So this is just the certificate of liability insurance. It is for all of Realty One Group, and it just covers you as you're doing your transactions. That is the reason you are charged twice a year, $245, I believe, in February and $250 in August. So if you're wondering what that does, that covers this certificate of liability insurance, covering you as an agent in your actions as a licensed agent. Recently, I had an agent think that this was going to cover her in her landlord business as a landlord. Remember, we do not do property management for Realty One Group. That does not exclude you as an owner of a property to be your own property manager. That's fine. But please note, get your own insurance, because this will not cover any of those actions as a landlord, because again, Realty One Group does not do property management. All right, let's go back. Now, this is the one, the second document here that says new COM instruction sales. So what do you think that is? This is our commission instructions. That COMM is actually for commission. This is what you need to do if you want to get paid. I don't know about you, but I figured when I was an agent, I kind of wanted to get paid. I'm guessing you guys do, because it is amazing when you're getting ready to get paid. I get phone calls all the time. Hey, can you sign this? So actually, that's really important. You do not actually send me the commission instructions. I know down here on the bottom, it does really say broker signature right here. And I do sign every single one of these. But it's really important that you know you need to fill this form out, and then you need to sign it yourself. If you're on a team, you need to have the team lead sign here as well on the top portion of this. Then you need to re-upload it into your SkySlope file. And the reason for that is that sometimes you as agents Possibly if you're a brand new agent, maybe you deferred some fees when you first started with us. Let's say you have something being garnished by the government, or you had some other fee that got assessed to you somehow that hadn't been paid yet. So there are outstanding fees that need to be addressed. Trust me, folks, I cannot sit there and go through, but I have a wonderful admin staff that does that. And that's why it needs to go into SkySlope, because Louise and Heather will go through and double check any of the things that are needed on this form. And the other thing they double check, Amy, you want to jump on and say what is the other thing that they double check on every single one of these forms? What has to be written right here on line 7? Your mic is off.
Oh, your actual name, your legal name.
Legal or licensee?
Licensed.
Your
License.
name that you are licensed under, correct. And if it is a PLLC or an LLC, that is the name that goes on line 7. But let's go up to the top here. Let's make sure everybody knows. Look, I can type in here. When you open this in SkySlope, it is editable. Okay, so I recommend you do this. Now, how many of you have Mac computers? If you have a Mac computer, you need to download Adobe Reader. Is that correct? Adobe Reader into your computer so that you can actually edit this. The Mac software on, I think, Safari does not like this form. Okay. But technically, this is what you would do. Today is 10/23. Oh, is it really 10/23/23? Gotta love that. And I think this is going to make me put in here. Here, we're going to try that. Oh, it added it. It took it to 2023. Okay, so I'm going to say this is Melissa, and I have to use my full name because that's what my license is under. And we're going to do 123 East Main Street, very popular street, address. 85016. Okay, so who am I representing? The buyer, seller, or both? So if you are only representing one side, you click those. If you click both, the difference is you're paying 2 transaction sides. Remember, on the transaction fees, there are 2 sides. If you're representing both, you will have both coverages. If the other side is unrepresented and you are only representing one side, then you're going to click the side that you represent, buyer, seller, both. If you're on a team, you click this box and you can either put the team name in here or you can put the team lead's name in here. Either way, it will get through. We know which team we're looking up, right? And for those of you on teams, on your contracts, one of those 2 lines on either the buyer or the selling side on the back should say that team lead's name. It should always have that secondary team lead as one of the buyer or seller agents, okay? So here, let's just go ahead and put Rock Title. Escrow officer will put Art. It's Art C. DeBaca, I think. That's how it's done. So if you guys do not know, your escrow numbers usually look something like this, and then and I don't know if it's going to be AC or AD, but I think it's Art C because I think C is the beginning of his last name. So usually the last 2 are the letters of the person who is your escrow officer. Sometimes you will see that this will begin with a 23 because funny, it's 2023. So it just depends on how they set that up. One of the things I've done as a tip, when I go in and get my earnest money receipt, I save that file with that escrow number as the file name or part of it. So all I have to do is look in my my folder, and I'm going to see what the escrow number is. I don't have to keep opening up documents to re-find that escrow number. But you know, when we were talking about how we set up our SkySlope files, a lot of people don't realize that escrow number is one of those things that's required in that transaction section. And the reason you want it in there is because when you're filling this out, you've already got it because you're in your SkySlope and there it is, and you've got your escrow number. Let's say the sales price is $550,000. Whoops, not all those nines. And then are we getting paid a flat fee or a commission amount? Now, if you'll notice, the computer already knows that the transaction fee is $600 because you put the sales price in there. Now, unfortunately, sometimes this messes up. So if I put a 3 here, it's going to be 300%. So the fix for that is you need to do 0.03 because it's already got the percentage in there. And that's going to do it at 3%. Okay. Now, for those of you doing new home sales, please understand, read your contract carefully. New homes are often done off the base price. So there are 2 ways you can do it. You can write in here, let's say the base price was only $475. Okay. That's gonna, nope, that still isn't 600, so it doesn't matter. So, but let's say the base price was $475, the purchase price is $550. Well, you don't want to do the 3% off the other, you want to do this 3%. So one of the things you can do is drop that in there, then go over here and write 14,250 as a flat fee. Oops, it disappeared. 14,250 as a flat fee. And now you can go back up here and write 550. And you've got that, but you're not changing that calculate. Oops. We don't want quite that many zeros. Okay. But does that make sense? So, again, new home sales, your commission is often linked to the base price, not with added things that your client has added, additional flooring, cabinetry, bedroom, whatever thing they're adjusting with that. Those prices are not, they don't have a built-in 2%, 2.5%, 3% for an agent, right? And nor would you want them to. If your client's paying for those out of pocket, they're trying to design their home and look at what bathroom tile they're putting in. If the builder all of a sudden had to add that 2 to 3% of additional money to cover for the agent, that wouldn't make much sense. And I think all of us would agree with that. So let your client do their design work, but you get your money off that base price. So that's one of the ways you can do it. I'm going to shift this back to a percentage just so we keep that. Oops, I added an extra 5 there. Oops. We'll do that. So it's back to the 14. Do it. Did I mess that up? Huh?
2.5.
The 14 was for the 475.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. Appreciate it. Yes. So the question was, if you were doing 2.5%, you would have to do 0.25, right? You have to get that 0 in there first to get the 0.025. Right? So does everybody see this? It's 0.025. If the percentage is already there, you have to move the decimal point over 2 spaces to the left. Old math there. So if you are capped, remember, people are capped on their individual anniversary date. If you are on a team, you need to know if you're capped or not. Check with your team lead. That's part of the reason the team lead is signing off on this. So if the agent's capped, you check this box and then those things are going to disappear, right? Does that make sense? If it's your primary residence, Realty One Group does not charge you if it's the home you are living in. That's what residence means, not if you are doing a transaction. So we have plenty of realtors that are investors. They buy lots of properties. They pay transaction fees on all of them, but their primary residence. So here is the comment on new builds. Go ahead and put the base price up there. And then our office staff will cross through that and put the top amount. And the reason for this, I wasn't showing this, but here's the reason. If in fact the purchase price was here, let's just go back to this for a second. If the purchase price was $650, then your amount would be $800,000. And if the base price were actually $550, it would be dropping to $600. Realty One Group only charges you the transaction fee off that base price. They only pay those fees off that bottom one instead of the $800. So go ahead and put the base price up here. They will actually cross through and put the full sales price later on there, so it's recorded that way and you have the tracking, but we don't want you to be charged the transaction fee. Thank you, Louise. Okay, so if you have a TC fee that's to be paid to our office administrators, if you're using them to do the TC, you would put an amount in here. If you are a mentee, you would take this top price. I don't know, let's see if you can see my calculator if I open up a calculator here. So I'm guessing you can see that. Yep. So if you, and this is the same thing with referrals, anytime you're paying someone else that is based off of a split, those splits go off of your gross commission. So if you do 16,500 and you are paying of that a 25% referral fee to someone, then that amount is 4,125. Now, if it is a referral fee, it would go down here. What was that number? 1425? Oh, 4,125. Okay. Oops. Thank you. All right. So if that was a referral, you would say, let's say Realty One Group, Seattle. I don't know that we really have one, but just to say, so you could have a referral company in Seattle that's receiving that check. Okay. And so that would be what you would put there. Your name would go here. In this case, we're saying it's me. So the reason you do this calculation first is you need to get that off that top amount. Then you have the transaction fee. This number on the bottom here is going to be what is left, 11,775, and that is now zeroed out here. Now, sometimes you offer your client, say, let's say an $800 closing cost credit. Then we have to adjust that. So the easy way, if you don't have a calculator handy, just zero that out, and guess what? It's going to give you your new number right there. So you don't have to go get that calculator again. It's a pretty useful tool. On Macs, you may have trouble. It may not be calculating all this correctly. So please double check, but ultimately this bottom line to the right of customer credit all the way on the far side has to say 0. Now, as you scroll down, oh, and of course here, if you've got other payees, let's say you are on a team, you are going to have somebody else on that team that is receiving money. You are going to type their name. Funny thing, you need to ask them what is their licensee name, or you can go to the Department of Real Estate and find their license name and use that. On the bottom here, you need to open this little tab up and select Paradise Valley, or your checks will not be delivered here. So you need to do that. And then you guys need to print, sign your name, and then upload this into SkySlope. Do I have any questions? Because otherwise I'm going to move on to some of these other documents.
Melissa,
yes.
for the credit, I know it says 800, and what did you say about that 0 being in there?
This 0 over here.
Yeah.
So if I remove this $800 credit, right,
Mhm.
then this is going to show that I still have $800 sitting out here that needs to go to somebody up here.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
So it actually calculates where your remaining balance is. What it's doing, it's taking the 16,500, subtracting the 600, subtracting what's going to you and the referral. And this is showing the total payout right now is 15,100 instead of 16,500, which is
Okay.
what's leaving me the 800, I'm sorry. This is this bottom amount plus the 600.
Okay,
And
um,
then it's lower that. This 15,100 is below this long rectangle. Lines 7 through 11 are totaled on 12.
okay.
And so
But I think
15,100 plus 15,600 is 15,700.
on the transaction desk, it looks different. Like, I haven't used SkySlope. I
This is-
have before,
this is-
but
This is not anywhere in either of those.
so this is
the
our
only-
commission.
This is only right here in
Okay.
our working documents. Everything I'm doing today is in our working documents.
Okay, so that's
Okay.
why it looked really different. The other agency had a whole different other setup. So this one, the customer credit, and that's because I'll credit for all customers the home warranty. So that one is the customer credit, that's what goes in there. We don't have separate lines for that.
It would go in there and then you would fill out this commission reduction form.
Okay,
And this can be used to state that, we'll just follow along with this that we were doing before, right? 123 East Main Street, representing the buyer. I don't know, I guess you have to put an X there. Anticipated close of escrow is going to be 2023. Realty One gross commission, we would get that off of here is the 16,500. Commission to be reduced by, let's say you were doing a $800 home warranty. And then you can put in who the buyer and seller is. This is a credit to the buyer. Whoops, why is it? I hit the wrong thing. So for buyers home warranty. Personally, I don't feel like you need to do this form for just a home warranty credit. This is when you're doing something where both sides are typically crediting or reducing, say, 1%. And it's something you guys are negotiating. This is when you're negotiating something. This is only on our side, though. There is another form, and I wanted to show that to you, so thank you. Let's see if I can find this. Oh, that's the instructions for the mailing things. Hang on a minute. Okay. Let's find this other. We need to change these from saying commission. No. That is not the form. Woo. Sorry, folks. Uh-oh. There is a form that is really cool. Commission amendment to MLS. So this is a big one. I don't know how that ended up down there, but that's okay. So when I'm being told that somebody is adjusting, if they're a buyer and they're not collecting what is listed in the MLS, this is the agreement that both sides need to be signing, the listing broker, the buyer broker, and the buyer's agent. Because the MLS is a contract stating that that is going from broker A to broker B, Realty One Group to HomeSmart, Realty One Group to anybody else, EXP, right? EXP to Realty One Group, right? So you need a change between the brokers stating that what has publicly been advertised is being modified, right? And so this is the document you need. This is the commission amendment. Oops, why I did that. Commission amendment to the MLS co-broke. Does everybody understand that? All right. Now I am going to, somehow my SkySlope got off my main pages. So we're going to go up here. Okay, so Many times, I'm not where I was going to be, but since we're here, document delay explanation. There's actually a form for that, folks. You don't have to grab a blank sheet of paper, although you can. There is a nice little form that you can actually type in. Again, if you're on a Mac, if you don't have the Adobe, it's not going to let you type in here very well. But you put today's date, whatever date you're writing this is the date that you are writing the response form. You're going to write your name in here. And I don't care if that is actually your legal name. I just want to make sure we know who you are, right? 123 East Main Street, document delayed, listing package, right? If the entire package was late, then just put listing package. So all contract documents that have been signed need to be into SkySlope within 72 hours of your execution date. Many people think, well, if I get an ER assigned, the listing agreement, the exclusive right to sell or exclusive agency, if I get that signed, say April 1st, but we're not going to actually go on the market until May 15th, I don't need to put that in until May 15th because that's when we're going on the market. That is not accurate. If you get that ER signed, that is a contract that needs to be in SkySlope within 72 hours of your signing of the ER. Now, the other documents as they come along, you add in there as they get signed. And of course, your data entry form may not be done that far out. But once the ER is done, you need to open up your SkySlope file for your listing. Okay, so, and you could say, thought I did not need to submit until we went on the MLS. So what are the steps you're taking to ensure compliance? Understand, right? If you're a new agent, I understand now that every contract has to be submitted within 72 hours. So what would be those contracts, right? So when both parties sign something, then you have something that is a contract. But most specifically, your ER and your purchase contract are your biggest documents to that 72 hours. But your BINSR is absolutely critical. When that BINSR gets signed, that should be in there within 72 hours, because how many times do we have problems on a file because of some misunderstanding with the buyer inspection notice seller response? We need to have those documents in those files. So, and again, this is an ADRE, this is an Arizona Department of Real Estate requirement. This is not ours. It has to be in there because if our files get audited, they're looking to see why our agents are not processing documents in a timely manner. So that is where this all comes from. Let's go to the Department of Real Estate. These are the rules that we are given as brokers. We actually have to review them, I think, within 7 days, but you guys have to upload them within 72 hours. So we have that time span to get through all those documents and get back to you. All right, so let me go back to SkySlope. We are on page 3. I'm going to go back to page 1. There's no way I can get through all of these, but I want to point out what they are. If you are ever doing a referral and you are getting paid from someone else, you need this Paradise Valley Office W-9. This is signed on January 1st of each and every year and will be uploaded and exchanged out for next year's. I take it on January 1st. I put it on my computer so I have it and can send it out. It's a set document. You don't need, it's not going to change between now and December 31st. So just hold on to that. Coming soon addendum. This addendum, when you are taking a listing, you want to get your client, your seller, this is you as a listing agent, to sign this document for a couple of different reasons. If you are going to have it go in coming soon, or if they're going to allow you to advertise under our Realty One Group Facebook section, or you're going to talk to other realtors in this office. Maybe you have them on a text chain or whatever, certain realtors with Realty One Group. You need to have them sign this so that they understand that if they take an offer received prior to the home going on the MLS, it may or may not be the highest obtainable price or terms, okay? They need to acknowledge that so that they know, and it may be perfect for them, right? They don't want anybody through their house. They just want to get it sold. That's fine, but they do need to acknowledge it may not be the highest and best offer. Now, if they're going to go into coming soon, they only have 30 days when they can be in the coming soon status. It does not, they need to know that that time is not allow the listing to be syndicated. It will not be on Zillow, Realtor.com while in coming soon status, okay? The listing agent is permitted to promote their listing to the public while in coming soon status. So you can post it on your general Facebook. You cannot do that if it is not in the MLS. Remember, once it goes to public facing websites, put a sign up, then it has to be at least coming soon within 1 business day of going on the market. And guess what? We've explained that to the seller right here. And I honestly, I would like this paragraph to be signed off by sellers, because I would like the sellers to acknowledge when they tell us they want it in the, they want us to be marketing it and they want the sign out front, but they don't want any showings, that they need to know they need to go coming soon, because the minute they put those out, we're obligated to put it as coming soon. So I would prefer this actually have a seller signature as well, but currently this is all our office requires is the agent's signature. But that does not stop you as an agent explaining why you are signing this, and that they also understand that status change that must occur if we put a sign out front. If they want us to put it on our general Facebook, or if they take what you show them and then they start sharing it out there to their Facebook, guess what? It's got to go into coming soon. They can't do that once it's gone out to the public. It has to be in the MLS within the 1 business day. Now, that means on a Friday, you can put the sign up and not put it into the MLS in any of those conditions until Monday, because that's 1 business day. So you can play with the timing there, folks. But again, you need to make sure they understand they may not be getting the highest and best offer if they go that route. All right, let me close that one. That form, it's called coming soon, and it also is 1 exclusive, but the name in the system says coming soon. Okay. But it is coming soon or 1 exclusive, because it's talking about both. So, all right. Commission reduction, I showed that to you earlier. ABA marketing, this is a fillable form. So if you want to do this fillable, then that is fine. I will give you a heads up. You will be told this within the next month or so, but this affiliated business arrangement disclosure statement should be the 2nd document you are providing any client of yours. The first one, anybody have a guess what the first one is? Agency. Okay. First one's agency. The second one is this affiliated business arrangement form. This should not be after you've filled out the purchase contract and written in Rock Title, because they need to know up front that we are affiliated with Rock Title and that they do have choices, right? There are other settlement shops. You have the right to shop around for these, right? The buyer has that right. How are they given that right if we haven't given that up front with a couple of days to spare or a month to spare for them to have the chance to look at other companies, right? It should be the first thing that is, or second thing that is given to every single client, listing or buyers, either one. And it is probably going to be required that we forward this to the other side. They don't have to sign it, but it needs to be on the top of the papers going when we submit an offer on another property. And if you folks receive an offer, if you're the listing agent and you receive an offer from another one, if they have an ABA in there, you need to put that on top and share that with your client, your seller, because guess what? Let's say it's another company that has an ABA with Magnus Title or Stewart Title or Clear Title, right? And your client needs to know that there is an affiliated business relationship there. They can choose then to counter that or not counter it, but they need to know that information up front before you start doing your counter offer form for them if they plan to counter. All right. It's very important that they have that information up front. Again, we don't have to have them sign it, but they need to have it in that paperwork. Okay. So if you guys are not aware, there's two different parts to this. They have them combined. They're actually two documents. Thankfully, we're allowed to put them in as one line item in our SkySlope. The first is the ABA, the affiliated business arrangement. That is talking about Rock Title and Epic Lending. It says EVO home loans, but it's DBA is Epic Lending. Okay. And the second one are all of our marketing arrangements. So a little bit different. It means that we don't, meaning Cuba, does not own a portion of them. They have a marketing arrangement with these two home warranty companies, the 1031 exchange, Move Easy, and a covered insurance solutions company. Again, they're combined into one document. We call it the ABA, Affiliated Business Arrangement. So you just need, and again, these are fillable when you are on in this particular area, they are fillable in here. So post possession. Oh my gosh, guys, we've had so many of these. Does anybody want to share with me what is the number one thing that you have to do when you have somebody looking at either post or pre-possession? What is the first thing you have to advise them?
To not to.
Don't do it. Actually, it is to seek appropriate counsel from lender, insurance, legal, tax, and accounting professionals. We have to disclose that. That is why it is in big, bold print, but I recommend you make it a practice that you get to this form and you start with, you are advised to seek this legal counsel. This could impact you in a variety of ways. I am not a tax person. I am not an attorney, and I am not an insurance company. There are multiple ways that there could be issues with this. We are providing this form, but we are not providing the legal expertise to back this form. It is simply there for them to have as an option. You do need to fill in certain things. Does anybody remember what is required for any legal contract in real estate to have? There's one absolute, well, there's several musts, but one of them is a definite. There are about 5, but I'm just going to go over the one. Any guesses? You have to have a starting date and an ending date. And I can't tell you how many post and pre-possession contracts I get with TBD. I was like, okay, you can say that it starts upon close of escrow. That is a date that will in fact fill in, and that's okay because it actually has a specific date. The next part of it either has to be the number of days after close of escrow, or it has to be an actual numbered date. So either 20 days post close of escrow, but you can see it has beginning on close of escrow until blank date. Okay. Now, I had one that said beginning on close of escrow until close of escrow. And I thought, well, that's interesting. They actually are not doing a post possession then, because close of escrow is still close of escrow. Close of escrow is not the end of the post possession. Close of escrow is when the property is transferred from buyer or from seller to buyer. Okay. So you do need to put a date there. Now, if you don't put a date here, there is a spot, should be way down here that you can write in additional terms, post possession to run 15 days after close of escrow, right? You can write that in here. So there's lots of ways to do that. Please read through, have your client read through this. The one thing I have to say is it is actually pretty easy to read this document. It is not a tough document to read, but the risks involved are great and they need to know that. They do need to describe who are the occupants, who is staying in the property. Are there animals? How many animals, right? This could be an eye-opening experience if they didn't realize there were 10 dogs in that house because they were all taken out before. It's like, oh, wait a minute. So one of the reasons we use the post-possession instead of the lease agreement has to do with where is this? It has to do with who has what state laws are covering that time period. So when we talk about, sorry, I'm going to scroll back up here. When we talk about who is staying on the property and how long they're staying here for, right? If you have longer than probably 30 days, you may in fact want to do a lease, but then you run into the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act, and trying to get somebody out of the property then is more difficult because they then have to process through evictions per the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act. The idea is that this is a shorter scenario than that. And the other thing is the Landlord Tenant Act says the seller can only, or the landlord can only receive 1.5 times the rent in the security deposit, right? In any deposits. So if the rent is 0 under the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act, what is the amount allowed for the buyer to put down as damages? 0. So at this point, Arizona lawyers have not argued whether these post-possessions must abide by the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act. This whole document is written stating that it's not a part of the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act, and that is one of the reasons. So please understand that if at some point we get legal counsel that says, wait a minute, post-possessions need to comply with the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act, we will have a different scenario. But that is why this is an important thing. If you do a lease and you put 0 rent in there, you can collect absolutely 0 for damages. Because by law, you can only collect 1.5 times the rent. So that's why we've had a lot of people use post-possessions. If you're going to use another company's post-possession, please sit down with your client, read through the contract with them. Do not advise them on it, but make sure they are actually reading through it. Any guesses what the number 1 issue is with post-possession? Anybody want to?
Who's liable?
Who's liable? Well, who's liable for the belongings is the whoever's in there, right? So the tenant is liable for their own belongings. The structure is under the new owner. So, and that's why this document says they need to have their insurance, because oftentimes homeowners think, well, I have insurance. My insurance isn't going away. I'm keeping my insurance. Well, that's not true. As soon as you sell the home, your homeowner's insurance goes away. You may have told them you want renter's insurance and they cover that, but it's not covering the structure. The buyer's insurance is now covering the structure as the landlord. No, the biggest issue is items being removed, the right items being removed or the wrong items being removed. We just had an agent call that the seller was doing a post-possession. So they walked through the home looked okay. They signed off on it. There was no changes. 2 weeks later, seller is now moved out of state, and with them, they took the smart home system, the security cameras, the Ring doorbell, all of the guts of the system, and hightailed it out, even though the contract explicitly says all those items remain. Well, and guess what? That is theft. But what are the buyer's recourse available to them? Home is closed. So I had to say they need to seek legal counsel and pursue it in a court of law. And the agent, your job ended at close of escrow. You are out of the picture. Your agency at close of escrow is over, okay? So all we can do is advise that legal counsel. So those are the biggest issues, that, and usually that they leave a ton of stuff behind, right? They leave literally a truck's worth of junk behind that the buyer now has to deal with. And who's scrambling to try and help them? You are, and you shouldn't be, because you're out of the picture, right? But that is what ends up happening. We've had that several times in this office in the last 2 weeks. Yep, just happened, a whole truckload of stuff, and someone was helping the seller get their things out of there, and they didn't help very well. All right, we're going back here. Let's see. We got through post-possession. Lead-based paint. This is actually the lead-based paint pamphlet. This is not the form. This is the Protect Your Family from Lead. So if you didn't know where you could get it, it actually is in your working documents. So very easy to find there. New owner agent addendum. I don't even know what this is. Hold on. Oh, this is if you are an owner agent of the property. They just knew because they just added it. So anytime you are a party to the contract, not just on primary residence, but anything, you have to get this signed off on. Okay, and that we make sure that you've read this to see what is required of you to have your E&O coverage in here. So if you are an owner agent selling stuff, you need to know that you are going to provide a home warranty, right? Home warranty will be placed on the property or hereby acknowledges that the buyer has been offered a home warranty. This is something the buyer signs off on too. So that the buyer agrees to complete these, or they've been offered the opportunity, and that they're releasing us from these liability claims and demands because you're an owner agent. So that is this addendum. So if you do not want to come in and pick up your check, you can have them mailed to you, but this is at your expense, okay? Or they can wire them to you. The title company can wire. Again, this is at your expense. So please check with your banks before you have somebody wire it, because they will check with the bank to find out what to charge you, or it gets charged on your end actually in terms of that wire probably. But again, this can be done after you do your CDI. You just send this in as well. So let's go to page 2. I've got about 12 minutes left. We've hit some of these, but clear cooperation. This is basically the same thing as our one exclusive. We just have other things on it. Here, I'll open this up. This is just part of what we do. The other one we like better. It has the coming soon as well, but you can do this one if you know you're not doing coming soon. This doesn't have the coming soon paragraph. Okay, that's the only difference there. Adult community advisory. If you have never worked in the Sun City, Sun Lakes area, there are a lot of adult communities around the valley. There are other elements that are important to disclose, especially water and wastewater service providers, because Sun City is not a city, right? So it gets its services from other entities. It does not have, like the city of Phoenix has a water and sewer department. Sun City does not have those because, again, they're not really a city. So you could also have a community facilities district, which is an additional taxable amount that is charged for those areas. Quite a few areas in Buckeye have those CFDs, and they run for 10 to 15 years. So you need to research how much longer is the CFD going to have this additional, it's not called a tax, but it is a fee that is there. Wastewater service providers, are you having to go to Epic for your is it EPCOR, thank you, EPCOR for your water up in parts of Anthem have EPCOR water instead of City of Phoenix. Trash and recycling, are you paying Parks and Sons in Sun City or Sun City West? You do need to have the military airport disclosed if you're in those areas. Things that you can and cannot do with golf carts and use in those communities. So a lot of these say Sun City West, there are different sections that are charges here. This is the form you want to fill out. HOA is a great addendum to have, but a lot of the fees actually fit better on this form so that the buyer understands and the seller understands what those fees are. Cap improvement or capital preservation in Sun City is now $4,000. And it's only charged at close of escrow. So, and the buyer does typically pay that. What I was told a long time ago was that the reason they had set those up initially was so that the buyer had some, money in the game, right? They had money in the pot. If there was something that the city or the Sun City Rec Centers or the community was, being sued for, if they're a brand new buyer, they're like, yeah, it's not my deal. Somebody else, this is old, somebody else has to deal with it. The idea is their $4,000 is in there too. They're a party to that and they need to be watching what's going on. So typically it is the buyer that pays that. Very rare circumstances have I seen the seller pay that. So that's a great form. Again, if you're working those areas and have never worked in those areas, maybe partner up with somebody that has, or at least get with someone that has to make sure you're not missing anything. Okay. Let's see. New document checklist. All of you should keep an eye on this form a couple of times a year. If it's been a while since you've done a new listing, this is the best place to go look. If it's a traditional listing or a short sale listing, which you won't have right now, but an REO listing, a lease listing, what the required documents are. The ones on the top here are for the listing side. Once you get down here to the purchase contract section, then you have a whole nother set of documents that'll be required depending on what the file is. But if you will notice, these top categories are the categories when you go into SkySlope and you look at that pull down list, these are the categories you're pulling up. They reset your checklist on SkySlope so it says whether a document's required or not. So if you've input the wrong checklist here, please call the front office staff or email them and let them know they can reset it. You will have to reload your documents, but they can reset it so you don't have to redo all the top stuff. So it's just an important thing to understand how those all tie together. Let's see, commission instructions for rentals and referrals. This is the form you use when you are doing your commission disbursement or CDI instructions for rentals or referrals. If it is a referral, you are not going to check any of these boxes over here. If it is a rental, you either represent the tenant, the landlord, or both. Just like on the regular CDI, if you check both and you are representing both sides, there are two sides to that transaction fee. So even if it was only $25 on the one side, you will now have a $50 transaction fee because you have two transaction fees if you're handling both sides. Pretty similar to what we dealt with before. Make sure your name is exactly as it is on your license here, or if you are a PLLC, you put it the PLLC there, right? So make sure that's there. Whatever the overall amount is, let's say it's $12.50 here. Then we know Realty One Group, if that is $12.50, then Realty One Group is $200. Okay. And so then this is going to be $1,050, right? So you can either put your little dots here. There's no calculation done on here on your behalf. If you are doing a referral fee, that name and brokerage goes on the bottom of this, or if you're paying a TC or another agent helping you on the file, their name would go right there. You can put the remarks here. Again, this needs to go into SkySlope for me to get it to sign it. Please do not send this to me directly. The one document you can send to me directly are your referral forms. If you are doing a referral, we recommend you use the AAR form. You can set that whole thing up. I recommend if you are sending the referral to somebody else, that you get the other agent and their broker to sign first, then you sign and have me sign last. If you're receiving one from somebody else, you're welcome to give them my email and my name. They can loop me in. I prefer you see it before me so I know that you've accepted it, and then I'll sign off on it. So that's up to you. Let's see. HUD
Melissa.
authors. Yes.
Sorry, do we have a list of, I don't know, approved TCs, Realty One, Paradise Valley Group?
I have depending on what you're looking for, I have a list of TCs. Our front office will open a file for you for $100, but that's really all they do. If you want something more robust than that, we do have several excellent TCs in this office, and I think some are in another office, but they're in Realty One Group.
Oh, okay, awesome, thanks.
This form needs to be updated. How funny is that? Let me get that form updated. But if you are going after a HUD property, you have to have the Realty One NIAD number and the broker license. That's of Ron Kopis. My information should be on that. We'll make sure to get that updated. I do have my HUD access, so I can get in there, but I don't know how many of you are actually doing HUD properties, so I'm not really worried about it. There is a post-possession checklist that you can take advantage of. This is just to kind of go over what needs to be done with that post-possession insurance. Is renter insurance or additional insurance needed, right? Risk of loss. So it's kind of a cool little checklist. So take a peek at it. We give you a lot of tools in here. There's a pre-possession checklist. If somebody's going in early, honestly, this would be the one I do not recommend, because if the deal falls through, trying to get that person out of the property is simply not easy to do. Here is a copy. I'm not quite sure why this is here, but here's a copy of the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act. If you are doing anything with tenants, you should be on your documentation and your communication. You should have a copy of this www.housing.az.gov anyway, telling a tenant that they can receive this document for free. Does it hurt to send it on? No, not at all. But this will get them to, if there have been any changes since 2018, I don't know, but at least that way they can get them that in that format. This is the commission amendment. I think this is the one this is a commission agreement. I don't actually know what this is for. Well, the names sound redundant, but they're different forms. So I'm going to go through and try to change some of these names, because this is a builder. This is a commission agreement with a builder is what it is, so that you can verify that you are to be paid a certain amount. If they don't have a very clear definition. All right, I'm running out of time. I want to make sure you guys know, that there is a solar information form here. I highly recommend you use this solar information form with your listings. If you're taking on a listing, work with your seller to get this information up front. It is so hard. I've got one right now. We do not have any info, and we're struggling to try and find that out. It's just hard if they don't have it. So we've talked before, why not to waive the SPUDs. If you represent a seller, we actually have a form here that you can have everybody sign off that they know that they're waiving it. Don't recommend it because it puts the seller at risk that they could be sued for up to 6 years. So, and again, that's contract law in Arizona, not specific to real estate. That's just contract law. We've got our transaction fee if you're not familiar with what it is, but if you're using our CDI, it is going to break down for you automatically here. Here is your lease referrals and broker price opinions. It's a $25 minimum, 10% on gross commission of $1,000 and under. So good news is if it's exactly $1,000, it's only $100 to you. If it's 1,001, then it's $200. So that's where your jump is. So, all right, let me see what else here. Document delay, we did. Due on sale. If anybody is working with people wanting to do basically an addendum or doing a wrap, here is a disclosure that is required if you are doing any type of wrap. There'll be plenty of other documentation you have to do, but our office requires that you get the buyer and seller to sign off on this. So they understand their risks of moving forward with that. There is a lease purchase checklist. Look, I've been doing real estate 26 years. I have done one lease purchase and it failed. I represented the landlord, and after the deal was done, I fired the landlord. I wanted to have nothing else to do with them. The tenant lost $5,000 and truly got screwed by our lenders, but that was, my landlord was correct in taking the money. It's just not how I work. I don't know what NAR stats are today, but at one point they were as low as 85% of lease purchases did not go forward as planned. So if you represent a tenant, you need to be comfortable with the fact that you're lining them up with an 85% failure rate. I'm sure even if that number has dropped, it has not dropped by much. So be aware of that, and you just have to be comfortable. If that's what you want to do, they need to be aware of the risks involved. You've never seen one work. Yeah, no, and truly back, I want to say 10 years ago, it was 85% absolutely did not work. So a lease purchase is where you make an offer on the property to buy it in, say, a year or 2 years, and you're going to be renting it. Usually the rent is higher because a portion of that money goes towards your down payment in a year or 2 years. Oftentimes buyers or tenants, buyers are told, you know, you just have to fix a few things on your credit and everything will be fine. Typically, folks, if people have had a bad run of having poor credit, that is not going to change. And it is a huge gamble for them to have all life just be perfect for the next 12 to 24 months, that they're able to somehow get their credit fixed and be able to make it work. But
my experience with it, the value of the house has changed. And now one party's mad, the other party, other party's happy, and the party that's mad usually doesn't move forward.
yeah, so Mike is saying in his experience, what happens is the property value changes, and one party's happy, one party's mad. They don't want to move forward, but oftentimes it's because the buyer cannot get through that final hurdle. In my scenario, the buyer had been told 6 months, everything will be fine, no problems, and their credit wasn't fixed, and they lost $5,000, and it was a lot of money for that tenant, so, or buyer. All right, I have not gotten through all these, but I've gotten through most of them. If they're, let's just jump. Here's a TC info sheet. So if you are going to use the TCs at the front desk and want them to open a file for you, this is what you have to fill out to send in. If it's a lease, it's $50. A listing sale, it's $100. And that's what you send over with your paperwork for them to open the file for you. Again, that is for Louise or Heather to do that. Whoops, let me go back. Let's just see. Any last thing here that I did not get to? Realtor safety. Only got 2 documents left. May as well open them. I'm only a few minutes late. So these are resources for safety tips, things you can do to set yourself up to make sure people are keeping an eye on you and you're keeping an eye on your surroundings. One tip I will give you with tenants, I have a hard, fast rule that I will not set an appointment with a tenant without receiving a copy of their driver's license. And look, you need it to put an application in anyway. So, and I always just said my broker required it. I was the broker at the time. I mean, it was my team. So I was like, I require it, but I didn't say I require it. Say my broker requires it. You're welcome to do that. But it's up to you. I just, anytime I was meeting tenants, because you have no idea who they are. And after you've had this whole conversation with them, and then all of a sudden they can't produce their identification. Are they really who they've been telling me they are? So I just, as a safety tip, that is something I do recommend. Let's see what a rental agency waiver form is. This form is required when you help a tenant who you had given the agency form to, who now you are being told that it is a big conglomerate rental house or property management company, and they are not putting you on the lease. They are simply paying you a referral fee. You actually have to send your client a notice that technically you are not representing them at this point because you can't. Does that make sense? So that is what this form is. So if you're asked to change your rental forms, because then it's not a lease, it's a referral. And they'll flip it in our system from a lease to a referral. But this agency form has to be filled out because you already had agency. You now have to have that agency waived. So it looks like I've gotten through, I think, every document in there. I hope this has been helpful for you today. Hopefully folks have a good idea of what these forms are and how to use them. Wishing you all the best for a week. Good luck with your transactions and have a great week.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And for those that are doing the Popeye on Wednesday, we'll see you Wednesday afternoon. And that divorce program on Wednesday morning is full. So if you haven't registered, you can look they're doing one at WeServe, I think next week or the week after. And all of the classes by Justin have been canceled this week, but if you were registered for one, you're getting a video recording of it, but he had to cancel his classes this week. Have a good one.
Thank you, Melissa.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.